Barcelona have been one of the most successful clubs of the past 50 years, and much of that success is due to one ideology, one football philosophy if you will, called Tiki Taka. That is no surprise to you who clicked on this video, however, what you might not know is that the origin of Tiki Taka is actually rooted in corruption and tax evasion. It might seem insultuous, stupid, or downright wrong at first sight, but sit back and let me tell you one of the most important butterfly facts in the history of football. This is how tax evasion originated Tiki Taka. In 1978, a new Barcelona president was elected. Josep Luis Núñez was the chosen one by Los Culés. Núñez had no previous connection to the club, but he had formerly built the biggest construction company in Catalonia. Having built a successful empire, Núñez emphasized more on the business aspects of the club, thereby providing financial stability to transform the club into a commercial entity. As you can imagine, he was a polarizing figure from the get-go. Then, in 1987, Núñez came up with a way to pay less taxes on the players' wages. Half of their salary would come under an image rights contract, which were significantly less taxed. That way, it would be cheaper for the club, and the players would receive more of their salary. At the end of the day, everyone was happy and nobody complained about the deal. Nevertheless, in the following year, everything was going terribly for Barcelona. Luis Aragonés, who endeavored the counter-attacking style at Barca, took advantage of the fast and agile profiles of El Lobo Carrasco and Gary Lineker up front. But his tactics weren't the best fit for Barcelona, and the results showed it, as with 4 matches to go until the end of the season, they were 23 points behind the already mathematical champion Real Madrid. In Europe, things weren't that good either, as they were knocked out by Bayer Leverkusen in the quarterfinals of the UEFA Cup. On a more positive note, Barcelona had lifted the Copa del Rey after beating Real Sociedad in the final. And while the squad and Aragonés gained confidence back from the fans after that win, the 1987-88 season was still seen as a massive failure. The fans were rightfully mad, and most fingers pointed the blame on the president. And to make things worse, it was then that the Spanish tax authorities decided that this little deal the club had with the players was illegal, and that they had to pay their taxes retroactively if they didn't want to be charged with tax evasion. At first, the players privately approached the management in good faith, demanding that the club persuade the authority either to validate the setup or to pay the difference. Still, Núñez declined any agreement between the management and players regarding the tax violation and demanded the players to repay the tax due back themselves. The entire squad felt betrayed by their own president, so, under captain José Alexanco and coach Aragonés, they decided to protest together against the Barcelona board of directors. Therefore, on the 28th of April 1988, the club's first team, accompanied by their coach, gathered at a hotel 3 kilometers away from the Camp Nou called Hesperia. In an act of rebellion, they sat in front of the press and declared revolution against the club management by announcing Josep Luis Núñez and his syndicates for the inhumane and unprofessional treatment of the players and the club. The whole country stopped to listen to them, as this was something that had never happened before. A club squad of Barcelona's size publicly condemning the management was something that made headlines for days. However, the result of their protest was far from what the players imagined. The Hesperia Mutiny did result in one of the biggest rebuildings in the history of the club, just not the ones the players were expecting. Núñez, who so far had never been fully appreciated by the club's supporters, was now seen as a hero, while the players were seen as nothing more than some greedy mercenaries who, despite their underperformance, were still demanding more money. The blame from the terrible season was now completely on the players and coach. There were even banners from the fans supporting Núñez and rejecting the players for organizing such a revolution. And as the fans turned in favor of Núñez, he went ahead for a massive cleanup. This resulted in an enormous exit of players, with only 10 remaining in the team, including 2 of the main figures of the uprising, José Alexanco and goalkeeper Andoni Zubizarreta. Regarding the managerial position, Núñez appointed a certain someone called Johan Cruyff. The results were almost immediate, as in the next season, Barca would win the Cup Winners' Cup and finish second in La Liga, a much better result comparing to the 6th place from the previous year. And during the entire period that Cruyff coached them, they would literally win everything that there was to win, including 4 La Ligas, 1 European Cup, and 1 Copa del Rey. Furthermore, Cruyff's impact can't be measured solely by what he won with the club. More important than anything, his philosophy, the Tiki Taka, would bring Barcelona and even Spain to an era of domination that lasted almost a decade. Those who watched football in the late 2000s and early 2010s know that this Barcelona was above everyone else, and that Spain team made me furious. For how good they were, of course. And to think that all of this started because of money and greed. Without the result of the Hesperia Mutiny, the president would never feel confident enough to let go all of those players that were holding the club back and appoint a different manager. By no means I'm defending corruption. It's just fun to look back at moments that seem small, but would end up redefining history. In this case, it was for the better. And that is it for the video. Hit the like button as it really helps me grow in this channel. Subscribe if this isn't the first time watching Throne FC, and let me know what other topics would you like to see me cover in a future video. Click on this one up next. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I'll see you there.